Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone joining us again from around the world. Welcome to the cap-off webinar of the Global Alliance Education Training Development Month 2025, brought to you by the Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management. After a month-long journey of exploration, inspiration, and learning under the theme, Reimagining PR and Communication, Ignite, Learn, Transform, we now gather one more time to reflect, connect, and move forward. So today's session carries the theme, Transforming the Landscape, Future-Ready PR and Communication Strategies. So in our kickoff webinar last April 11, we heard the voices of educators and researchers who helped us understand the trends, challenges, and innovations reshaping PR and communication education. Now, it's time to hear from seasoned practitioners, experts, and leaders in the industry who are at the forefront of applying these ideas in practice. So they will share how they are reimagining, transforming, and preparing the PR and communication profession to meet the demands of an increasingly complex and fast-changing world. So this cap-off conversation ties everything together, taking us from academic insights to actionable strategies for a future-ready PR and communication landscape. So we have an exciting lineup of esteemed speakers today, and we are honored to learn from their diverse experiences across different regions in the world. And of course, to lead today's discussion, we are proud to introduce our moderator, an inspiring leader, advocate, and change maker, Ms. Shreya Krishnan from India. Shreya is the managing director of AnitaB.org, a CSR specialist and a corporate grooming consultant. She sits on the advisory boards of 8 organizations and 7 NGOs and works actively in areas like activism, sustainability, and inclusion. She is an NLP practitioner, Gestalt master therapist, award-winning poet, theater artist, and author. And if that's not enough, Shreya is also the winner of Miss Universal Empowerment 2024 and a former Mrs. India Universe. An inspiring figure in every sense, Shreya uses her voice and passion to drive positive change globally. Shreya, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Giselle, for that warm introduction. And hello again, everyone joining us from different time zones around the world. It is truly exciting to be here. And as Giselle mentioned earlier, the cap-off webinar today brings us into the real-world application of everything that we've been discussing through GAETDM 2025. So under our final theme, Transforming the Landscape, Future-Ready PR and Communication Strategies, we will explore how leaders in the industry are shaping the future of PR and communications by innovating, adapting, and anticipating change. They say the only permanent thing in life is change, and as long as we adapt to it, we're far better equipped to navigate the world in the way we can. Our esteemed panelists today represent a range of sectors and expertise from strategic communication and reputation management to internal communications, leadership, and the application of artificial intelligence. Their stories, insights, and advice will help us not only imagine the future, but build it starting today. Without further ado, let's meet our distinguished speakers. Our first speaker is a highly respected leader from New Zealand, Fiona Cassidy, FPRINZ, LRPINZ, Director of FR Consulting, and a seasoned C-suite communications expert. Fiona is a life member and fellow of the Public Relations Institute of New Zealand, FPRINZ, and currently serves as a board member of the Global Alliance. She also chairs 2 national boards and lectures internationally. Please, without further ado, put your hands together and welcome Fiona Cassidy. Fiona, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Kia ora, everybody, and from New Zealand, welcome to the future, because it's already Thursday here. So I've been looking at a whole lot of the activities that we've been doing over the last month, and what I'd like to do is bring that all together in a new acronym. And my acronym, which is a good way to think about the change and everything that goes on in the world, is we need to be calm. Now, let's unpack that and see what it looks like and what it means for our future in what has been a pretty interesting last 12 months with the change of the political landscape, the environmental landscape, and obviously AI. So the first thing I would like to talk about, which I think is so important to us because we are global systems, global citizens, is the sea. So if we could change sides, please. And for me, it is so important that in this world that is ever changing, that we remember that our uniqueness as communications and public relations professionals actually comes from our culture. Now, one of the things that we always argue is that globalization is something that we must be a part of. Yes, but it should not come at the expense of who you are and what you are and your superpowers. So if we look at these 4 examples in front of us, they are all unique. We have from Europe, the landscape and how it may look in a house here. The second photo is here in New Zealand. It is a Māori welcome. The third one is Chinese, and the fourth one, I'll pretty well know, most of you will know, it's durian. These are the things that make us unique as communications professionals. And what it is really, really important to do with all that change is hold on to our cultural and our cultural nuances so that we can ensure that when we are communicating globally, we do that from the unique position of our culture and being strong in it and knowing it and making sure that that is our superpower. Now, the second thing I would like to talk about, and there are more esteemed speakers later on this evening or this morning or this afternoon with both Bonnie and Wayne, but artificial intelligence is here and it is here to stay. Now, for some of us who have been around a little while, we remember when the internet came in. Yes, it didn't used to always be here. The only thing I am going to say around artificial intelligence, it is a tool that we need to be able to use. It will actually amplify the ability for us to do our job. But what we need to do as communications professionals is ensure that the top 2 inches of our brain use it strategically to actually ensure that we can enhance the capabilities that we have. But most importantly, the thing we must hold on to when we are using artificial intelligence is the ethical application of this in all that we do. And that's hard. And that is hard right now because of the way it is changing. But later on, Bonnie and Wayne are going to take us through a little bit more about AI. Now, I'm going to go on to the L. Now, to me, the L is the most important thing to be current. As we heard, the only constant about our world is change. But to be relevant and to absolutely understand where we are going, lifelong learning doesn't stop when you get your degree. Lifelong learning means that you need to be current, because if you are not current, then how can you be relevant? You need to ensure that as much as you are looking at the programs of work that you are putting out, that you are investing in yourself, or you're ensuring that your company is investing in you. That means you do need to sit down and figure out where you're going in your career, what are the steps that you need to get there, and how, with all this change that is going on, are you going to be relevant? Now, I can say, having been in this industry for over 30 years, the only thing I continually do is look at courses, not only in comms, but also in business and other areas, so that when I'm working with my clients, that I am ensuring that what I am giving them is best practice and the best delivery of services that they need. If I'm also, and I have run big shops or big comms things, it's really important that my lifelong learning also encourages me into management, finances, everything else, because the minute you don't continue to learn, you will lose your relevance. Now, the last one in our CALM is you've got to have measurable outcomes. You can't just do stuff because stuff is a great thing to do. Why are we doing it? when we sit down and come up with a plan, we have to ensure that as we go along the way, we are tracking it to ensure we deliver for our client or for our organizations the outcomes we set at the start. Now, this is a really hard thing that many comms people know, doesn't matter where they have been in the business, actually have difficulty with, because we like doing things. We like making a new podcast, or we like doing a fabulous video, or we like writing our media release. But if it doesn't link to an outcome, not just the communications one, but a business one, it's just stuff. So, in a nutshell, it's really important for me and where I think we're going to ensure that the 4 things that we focus on are our culture, our cultural identity, AI and how we're going to use it and what it's going to allow us to do, remembering we drive it, that lifelong learning will continue to be something that we will do regardless if we're 20, 30, 40 or 50, and that everything that we do links to measurable outcomes. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you later on.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Can you all hear me? My Zoom took a little extra second to come back on. When we talk about politics, when we talk about the environment and we look at the landscapes and their ever-shifting mechanics, and when we look at artificial intelligence, it's interesting to note how culture, lifelong learning and measurable outcomes can truly blend in a manner that will inform us of the future that we need to look at and we need to shape. Thank you so much, Fiona, for that. It is interesting for us to be exploring this in this manner. We appreciate the valuable perspectives that are coming our way. And now we move on to our next speaker, who's from Australia, Wayne Asplin, principal of the Content Factory. Wayne has been at the forefront of leadership communication for over 20 years and is a thought leader on the impact of AI on communication, having written about this even before the generative AI revolution took off. So put your hands together and welcome Wayne Asplin. Wayne, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone. I'm just bringing my slides up now, if you can bear with me. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I may have been muted then. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening. I wanted to talk about some research that we've been working on lately, and really to talk about what I sort of see as comms golden opportunity moving forward. I wanted to start by sort of introducing you to what I'm sort of calling the AI roller coaster. And this roller coaster, the yay side of this roller coaster is that AI is giving us capabilities we never dreamed that we would have. I mean, the ability to create content at the sort of speed of technology, the ability to do comprehensive research and complex data analysis is beyond a lot of communication people like me, but not anymore. The artistic capabilities, the abilities for somebody who hasn't got an artistic bone in their body like me to actually create images is tremendous. So this is an amazing sort of new capability that we've all got. But there is a downside to this. This is the sort of scary part, which is there are dark clouds on the horizon. Now, there's been a lot of research that's come out just recently that says that organisations at the moment are suffering from chronic change fatigue. There's a lot of evidence of manager burnout and manager stress. And the other thing is that we're seeing evidence of fracturing alignment in organisations. What we're actually experiencing here, in my view, is the reality that technological change is starting to outpace humanity. And that's a challenge for all of us, particularly when you think that pace of change is only going to accelerate. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. So you might say, well, this is a pretty scary scenario, and there are elements of it that are, but I actually think that there is a huge opportunity for communications teams here to lead organisations through what will be a challenging period. And but we do need to kind of rise to the occasion. So recently I produced 2 reports. One is a white paper called Comms 2030, Why AI Might Be Communications Golden Opportunity. And there's also a PowerPoint presentation, which is basically a day in the life of a communications professional in 2030, imagining what that would look like. And the bottom line of the story, as I've said, is that there is a huge opportunity. There are threats, and I'll talk about those, but there is a huge opportunity for us. But we need to kind of stand up and grab this opportunity. It's not going to land in our laps. So let me run through some of the research that I did, and I'll start by looking at organisations generally. So as Fiona was talking about, we're going through this change period now. We've got technology accelerating away on us. We've got change accelerating. We've got all these complexities in the world around us, like the geopolitical issues and the uncertain economic environment. And in this environment, organisations are going to need to use AI to really do 4 key things. The first one is to become dynamic, more dynamic. And by that, I mean faster. If I can use an example here, it might be that, using AI to predict scenarios before they've happened, and to be able to predict multiple scenarios and then react quickly based on the scenarios we've got if something does particularly occur. The second one is collaborative. We're going to see humans and teams begin to collaborate with AI. So you'll have a team meeting, doing a brainstorm, and there'll be an AI in the room. And the end result will be, instead of ending the meeting with, you go away and do this bit, you go away and do that bit, it'll all get done in the meeting because AI is that quick. Human-centric is another one. AI will only ever be as good as the people who are using it. And so for that reason, the organisations that support people the best are the ones that are going to succeed at this. And the final thing is risk ready. We are going to be facing much greater risks and potential for crises. And it's this ability to use AI to be prepared for them, which I touched on under dynamic, that's going to help us enormously. So I think these are the 4 things that organisations need to do. But what does this actually mean specifically for comms professionals? The first one, there is a threat here. And the threat is that some of the communication tasks we do today, and content creation is a great example, will actually augment. So AI will start doing them more, but also they'll start to democratize across the business. People across the business, across the organization will start to create their own content. So there is that challenge that we face, but at the same time, there is going to be this growing call for us to lead, to stand up and lead. And it'll happen in 2 areas. The first one is to build an AI-enabled culture by becoming much more of a guide to employees in AI skills and training and responsible AI, helping them with change, supporting culture, doing communication skills training. If communication is going to democratize across the business, we need to train people. So this will become a really important step. The second one is getting much better at delivering counsel to the executive. And again, this comes about in the area of advising the executive in culture and alignment and strategic alignment, risk and crisis management, helping executives communicate better and use their own AI agents, which they will have. And one that I think will be particularly important moving forward is the stakeholder voice. Communications teams getting much better at reflecting the voice of our stakeholders and making sure that they are taken, that people factor them into decision making is such an important piece. So as I say, there's the opportunities here, but there is also some level of threat. Now, I'll move on to just some quick examples of what a day in the life might look like. This isn't the whole day. This is just 3 quick examples that I'll give you. So you might have a daily executive advisory meeting. And in this meeting, you'll be monitoring, using AI to monitor reputation risks, potential issues and crises emerging real time. You'll be able to pick up on things before they've happened. You'll be able to create solutions to them very, very quickly. So you'll be able to brief executives very quickly and give them answers to issues very quickly. One particular thing that I think would be interesting, say you're a comms person writing a speech for a CEO. You might start in the early stages working with the CEO's AI agent. So you won't be getting feedback to your work from the CEO directly. You'll be getting it from the CEO's agent. And then perhaps right at the end, you'll get the feedback from the CEO. So there's those sorts of things going on. Another example is, we're going to need to do much more skill building and training of people. So you might, in this hypothetical day, you might run skill builder lunch and learn sessions. And in these, you might use virtual reality and augmented reality to really create a much more immersive learning environment. You can use AI to create sort of interactive scenarios that are personalised to individual people and change based on how they respond to different questions. So they're really like on-the-fly hypothetical training. And then you can use chatbot coaching, which again will be personalised training offered based on what we know about that person. The third one I wanted to touch on was this, and this really brings in this idea of personas, which is going to be a big part of this. So you've got the product team has come to you with a new product idea and they want your feedback on it. I mentioned before about the stakeholder voice. So what you've done using AI is you've created real life personas of, and potentially hundreds of them, of all the different stakeholders in the organization's universe. And so what you can do is you can take this product idea and have conversations with all these different personas and get their feedback. So you can start to identify at a very granular level all the risks, challenges, what people love about the products, etc. So our ability to be informed will be much, much stronger than it has been in the past. So there's sort of three examples. There's a number of other things in the actual presentation that you can have a look at that happen in this day. The other thing I do want to add to all of this is this comment that I mentioned earlier about we need to rise to this occasion is not going to land in our laps. And there's three areas that I think are really important. And the first and most obvious one is to master AI, is to become really good at using AI, at understanding what responsible AI looks like, and being able to sort of practice that, model it, guide people, the ability to identify and prioritize the right use cases. So step one is really about this mastering AI. Step two is then leveraging AI to transform the function. What does crisis management look like when it's enabled by AI? What does training look like? What does comms in general look like when it's enabled by AI? We need to sort of think this through and really start to transform the way we do things using AI. And there are lots of different opportunities to do it. And the third thing, which was actually raised in an IABC session with someone from KPMG, which is we need to prepare, if we're going to be much stronger advisors to the C-suite, we need to be prepared for that. We need to sort of evolve into this role of building our capabilities and building our reputation to be able to start to really lead conversations across a lot of different fronts in the C-suite. So it's these three areas that we need to tackle moving forward. Now, one thing I have provided as a handout for anyone who's new to AI, I have provided a handout, which I think you'll be sent, which has got some information on some of the principles you need to think of when you're using AI, a basic prompting technique, and some interesting prompts to try. They're not the usual ones. So give that a bit of a try. So that was the bulk of it from me. The only other thing I wanted to end with was that when this research was launched earlier this year, and I did this research with the help of a number of very senior communication people around the world, and in fact, Bonnie was one of them. That nevertheless, we were kind of howling at the wind a little bit. We were the only ones saying this. But what we're starting to see now is more and more people coming in and more research coming in, actually validating some of the things we're saying. This is actually a comment from Lisa Colella of CRA that she made at a conference last week, where the basic scenario she describes here is exactly what we're talking about in the research. So we're starting to see some validation for this research. So that's it from me. I hope you found that useful, and I do run training and all of that sort of stuff. So if anyone is interested in talking to me further, just give me a yell. And thanks a lot.
Sure, Wayne, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of yells after that. Thank you so much for your insights. I loved how you took us through the AI roller coaster, through the AI universe. We spoke about the capability versus what the darker side looks like. We did address the fractured alignment and how tech is outpacing change so much more ahead of humanity. And of course, the opportunity that exists in the midst of all of this. Thank you for walking us through the idea of skill building, personas, mastering, leveraging all of this language and context. I love how you brought in the idea of being dynamic, collaborative, human-centric, and risk-ready. And I think that it also informs us as to what we need to look for as we build towards the future. So we really appreciate the time and insights. Thank you, Wayne. Now moving to Bonnie. Thank you. From the United States, we welcome Bonnie Carver, SCMP, President and founder of Reputation Lighthouse. Bonnie is an IABC Fellow and a strong global advocate for ethical and responsible AI in communications, guiding companies towards future-ready practices. Let's hear it from Bonnie Carver. Bonnie, the stage is all yours.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. Thanks for being here with us at different times all across the globe. I'm going to follow up with Wayne to get a little granular, but basically our message is the same. This is an opportunity for communication professionals to lead. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about beyond adoption, how we lead through this AI evolution. We've been spending a lot of time adopting. You'll hear a lot of conversations. I've had conversations with people where they said the CEO saying you better be using AI, or our organization we've put in a different level of we've put in ChatGPT organization wide. So let's get adopting. So we've been in this whole process of how are we adopting AI. The challenge is that we started to adopt AI, adopt the tools of AI, before we got to really thinking about how AI was going to reshape our world and reshape work. So in reality, what we have done is we have adopted things that will not be here for the long run. And we are continuing to look at tools without thinking about how do we reshape work? How do we reshape the future? What does our world look like with AI? It's really about how AI is a partner with humans and how we use it to be more innovative, to be more creative. It's not about the tools. So we're going to have this shift as organizations begin to step back and say, we have 50 tools and we have shadow AI going on in our organizations. We're going to have to change the way we're looking at this, and we're going to have to reshape how we're looking at it. And a perfect example of that is coming from some research that we have done around responsible AI. And we worked on this. Wayne was part of this, and Adrian Cropley. And this report will be coming out in mid-May. And we did this research in in preparation for the Venice meetings, where we will be talking about responsible AI for the communication and PR professions. But some things that showed us that we're really not quite where Wayne's talking about, not where we have the opportunity to lead, is there's four kind of bullet points I'd like to say is strategic priorities versus current practice. PR and comms professionals clearly see that governance should be prioritized and ethics should be prioritized. However, their current involvement is on tools. We're not looking at the strategic pieces of implementing AI. There's a communication gap. Hey, people, we're communicators, but guess what? We're not communicating about AI. We're not communicating to our stakeholders. Less than half are communicating about responsible AI approaches, around AI ethics, around AI governance structures. So we're really missing this opportunity. We're so involved in what I would call navel gazing and trying to protect ourselves and trying to figure out how we're going to use AI ourselves, use the tools, that we kind of forgot that measurement piece. We kind of forgot what we're supposed to be doing, and how we're supposed to be communicating with the world about how things are changing. There's this leadership void in AI governance. We're not involved. Only 8.2% of organizations have PR and comms teams leading AI governance strategies. Majority of PR and comms professionals aren't even involved in formal AI governance structures. And then finally, we're very focused on content creation, which, is great, but we're not looking at it as audience insights. We're not looking at it for crisis. We're not looking at it for data-driven decision-making. We're missing the opportunity to actually lead. And here's a perfect example. We've gotten all wrapped around generative AI, which is focused on creating new content, capabilities of general text, images, limited, it's limited because it truly just understands and doesn't really have common sense reasoning. But what's coming? Agentic AI. Agentic AI can make its own decisions. It's very task oriented. It will transform customer service. It will transform sales. It will transform marketing. It will transform supply chains. It will transform manufacturing. But guess what? It only works when it has the right information in it, when it has the right processes in it. So we've been so concerned about the tools of generative AI and how we justify our existence that we've not been looking at the strategies and the way that we can lead. For instance, if you're going into agentic AI, you've got to have processes in place. You have to have updated brand. You have to have reputational risk assessments. You have to know what you're going to do in crisis. You have to have updated your messaging. You have to have updated your content, but at a strategic level where the AI can learn from it. So I see the opportunity for communication professionals is in 3 areas. Reframe the conversation. It's not just about communicating efficiency. It's not just about replacing people. It's about how we can change and evolve with AI and become more innovative and become more strategic and utilize the tools. And also, we should define responsible AI in our organizations. And we should adapt the right change models because this is a time of change. I did want to just talk a little bit about responsible AI. IBM has defined this you know, in a very technical way. But in this same survey I was talking about, we asked the participants to define AI, responsible AI. And the way they came back was responsible AI is ethical, transparent, and human-centered development and use of artificial intelligence as a tool to support rather than replace human judgment, creativity, and communication. It emphasizes accountability, fairness, and accuracy while minimizing bias, misinformation, and harm. Responsible AI practices ensure privacy and data protection align with professionals and organizational values. Remember that it's bringing it into the organization and the organizational values, and improve proper attribution, governance, and human oversight. This is how people in the survey were defining responsible AI. In the Global Alliance, we currently have 6 pillars that are part of our guiding principles for responsible communication. And we're going to be working on those in Venice in the middle of May. And we'll be refining these with the Venice Pledge. But think about it as ethical rigor, human oversight and governance, personal and organizational responsibility, openness and transparency, professional development, that point that Fiona made of lifelong learning. You know, it is our responsibility to continue to learn. It is, as Wayne said, it is responsibility to learn AI. That was his #1 point. And then advocacy. Advocacy is very important because we have to stand up for how AI is being used responsibly and how it is being used irresponsibly. And then finally, this idea of what does change look like from a responsible AI. And we created this compass. And where we feel like most organizations are failing is they're not visioning. They're not spending that time to say, how can my organization change? How can my organization be more competitive? How can I differentiate? How can I change the world? How can I do all of these things that are aligned to my purpose? We start there. Right now, we're starting in this, you know, implementation of tools. We're starting way around the compass. And so when I say that organizations are going to move from adoption to reshaping, they're going to be going backwards in this compass and starting all over again. And so we have the opportunity to lead, because organizations that will be successful are organizations that at the heart communicate, learn, relate, align, and listen. Thank you for your time.
Oh my God, thank you so much for some of those truth bombs as well. You know, some of the things that stood out for me was how, if you're not looking at the adoption in the right framework, and if you're not going to reshape it, what happens and follows through is the attention on tools versus the actual dynamic in which these tools are being built. And I just want to call attention to this interesting thing that I recently heard. Let's stop calling AI responsible. Let's start asking people who operate the AI to be responsible, because it's abdicating the responsibility. And I thought I should just share, because that's what came up for me, Bonnie, when you spoke about it. And I love the idea of how you look at partnership of AI with humans and the whole ecosystem building towards, you know, informing better, building those data gaps out through and through, and the information and the process around it to be made a lot more robust. So thank you for reframing that understanding. And that compass was just so informative. I hope we'll all get access to that compass, because that was really poignant. Thank you, Bonnie, for that presentation. Without further ado, now we're joined by the United Kingdom. From the United Kingdom, Dr. Kevin Ruck, co-founder of PR Academy. Kevin leads the largest provider of CIPR professional qualifications and has authored key textbooks on internal communications. A strong believer in a research-driven practice, Kevin's insights will be vital for understanding how internal communication strategies are transforming today. Without further ado, put your hands together and welcome Dr. Kevin Ruck. Dr. Kevin, the stage is all yours.
Well, thank you so much. And hi to everyone joining wherever you are in the world. today. I'm currently in sunny London. I say sunny because it's not always sunny in London in April. So it's a great pleasure to be joining you today. And thank you. I'm going to build on some of the points that have already been mentioned. But my focus really is internal communication. So I just wanted to give you a quick background for those of you who don't know me. So I'm Kevin Ruck. I lead the PR Academy, which is a provider of qualifications for public relations and communication management. And we are the largest chartered institute of public relations teaching centre. I've been teaching qualifications for 25 years, I've seen a lot of changes in the way that practice has evolved. But I think a really interesting place for me is internal communication. And I was an internal communication manager for BT, that's British Telecom in the UK. But I've developed my interest around internal communication. I suppose I call myself a bit of a hybrid practitioner academic these days because I did 25 odd years, 30 years in practice, and then I went and did a PhD. So I think I can hopefully try to bring both perspectives. I'm very interested in academic research and how that informs practice. But let's get into the situation that we're facing today. And I think it's very interesting. I read literally a couple of weeks ago a new report that's been published by Microsoft. It's the Microsoft Work Trend Report, for those of you who haven't come across it. It's very interesting. It's actually saying that 2025 is going to be what they call the year of the frontier firm. Basically, what they mean is that organizations are going to be structured around on-demand intelligence powered by hybrid teams of humans and AI agents. Wow. This is the year that I think we are going to finally see some big transformations powered by AI. The research that Microsoft did said that 81% of leaders are reporting that agents will be integrated into their AI strategy within the next 12 to 18 months. This is going to be, I think, pretty much as big an impact on organizations as we saw in the pandemic in many ways. And it has really significant implications for us working in internal communication. I've just listed a few of the things that leaders are going to be grappling with in the next 18 months. None of these are particularly new. They've been grappling with culture and change management for many years. Strategic alignment and performance is still on their radar, very much so. And other things like organizational engagement, employee advocacy, and employee activism. These are very real things. Only last week in the UK, the University of Cambridge, I'm sure many of you have heard of, actually had a whistleblower go public in the media because the University of Cambridge had failed to act on an employee survey conducted over a year ago, which highlighted bullying in the workplace. Now, that failure to act on the results of an employee survey spurred one of their employees to go public about that. This is just one example of employee activism. There are many more. And I think if organizations do not get their internal communication right, we're going to see more examples of employee activism. But of course, if they do get it right, oh, wow, the resulting advocacy that comes from employees is really powerful. We know this from the Edelman Trust Barometer reports. People are going to be, they'll believe what an employee says about their organization more than just about anyone else. So we are going to have a huge transformation across all organizations in this coming year. But what does that mean for internal communication? That's what I want to explore in this session today. Now, the first thing I want to highlight really is that we're going to have to see internal communication change from copywriting, which it traditionally has been based upon, and move from copywriting to becoming a strategic planner and advisor. Now, that is not new. That has been going on for the last 20 years. But there's no doubt with the power that AI can bring to communication, that change, that evolution is going to accelerate rapidly in this coming year. And I talk about being a strategic planner as well as being a strategic advisor. We see a lot of, in the academic world, a lot of talk about being a strategic advisor. And we've heard already how important that will be, but not so much about being a strategic planner and what that means. So I want to talk about that as well, too. Hybrid working and reliance on digital channels. Well, that has come about since the pandemic, so that is not new, but that will accelerate again with the evolution of AI. So for internal communication managers, we really have to get their heads around what I call advanced channel and content mapping. And what does that mean? And also, we're going to have to start thinking less about broadcasting to employees and more about listening to them and understanding what their expectations are. So for me, the future capabilities that are going to be really important are not so much about learning how to use AI to create content, important though that is. That's not the fundamental capability transformation I think we need. It's actually, how do internal communication practitioners understand how to interpret the data that AI agents are going to produce for them? And how do they bring in human judgment into the decisions that they're going to be making based on that data? And of course, there are also some ethical challenges already heard. Bonnie's highlighted them already. Data security. Now, I've already heard of some organizations, mistakenly in my view, using ChatGPT and Claude to develop internal communication. Now, if you're going to be putting internal data from an organization into ChatGPT or Claude, you're effectively making it public. So there's already some issues about data security, but also we need to understand about employees' personal data security too. Transparency and openness. I wanted to just mention some research that I'm going to touch on throughout this session is based on Gallagher's State of the Sector reporting, based on research with practitioners in the UK and the US. In the most recent report, the 2025 report, they said that only 5%, currently, only 5% of organizations are explicitly disclosing they're using AI for internal communication. So we're talking about openness. We really have to be open about our own use as communication managers. So some challenges, some capabilities that we're going to have to explore. So when it comes to understanding how to use AI for internal communication, we've already talked about the way that it's used for drafting content and summarizing feedback from minutes and so on. That's where we are pretty much. Very, very few people are currently using, to my knowledge, artificial intelligence for internal communication planning. It actually can develop your plan for you. This is there, but very few people are actually doing that. Indeed, some internal communication practitioners, again, this is from the Gallagher State of the Sector report, are actually reluctant to reveal they're using AI because they think it calls into question their personal value as a content creator. It kind of threatens their job to actually admit they're using AI. Well, this is to misunderstand the opportunities that AI provides internal communication practitioners. So some other things really about planning. We need to, if we're going to be using AI for internal communication planning, and we certainly should, then the question is, how do we apply judgment to ensure that the plans that are developed by an AI agent are actually right for the culture of the organization, and they really fully understand what good practice is. Of course, they will learn to understand that, but in the initial phases, we need to be checking that quite carefully. So I don't want to sort of be over pessimistic about internal comms and use of AI. 50% of practitioners are actually embracing artificial intelligence for internal communication, but there is evidence there's a pocket of internal comms practitioners who are reluctant or reticent about using it. Another big challenge I think that we have in the internal communication world is with the increase of channels, and this has happened since the pandemic. We're now really in a situation where employees are overwhelmed by the noise that's being created in their organization. And we've already, I think Wayne touched on this too, personas, use of personas. I think segmented internal communication is absolutely there, using personas, but we've got to get clever and smart about the personas that we can create through the use of an AI agent. So for example, less than 50% of practitioners are currently using what I would call advanced levels of segmentation. So this is just going beyond location and department. Using an AI agent, we'll be able to get very clever, be able to segment by user behavior. This is a fantastic opportunity because this is the way we cut through the noise that's currently out there. And the other question really, I think we have to think about, working in a hybrid world, how do we create that kind of culture of connection between leaders and managers and their employees? And I think, there's some evidence from academic research that currently a lot of, the use of Teams and Zoom for communication with employees tends to be pretty formal communication. So the content of those, that communication is kind of like teamwork, or organizational based. And how do we create in a hybrid world using digital channels the spaces for employees to have those more informal chats? And I'm not sure we're really fully there yet. So finally, I wanted to just talk about some of the other challenges that are coming through, and that's about measuring impact and outcomes. Again, this has been raised already, but I want to talk really about the way that the capabilities for internal communication people to be able to move beyond what we might call outputs, basic metrics, views, likes, downloads, opens, reads, is a basic output metric. Now, we're sort of, at the moment, internal communication people have lots of that data available to them through intranets or digital platforms. It's much harder to try to track sentiment, perception, feelings, which I would call outcomes. It's possible, it has been possible, it's certainly something that we could do, but the use of an AI agent will make that so much more accessible. The question comes though, how do internal communication people develop the capabilities to understand how to use the data that can be generated in a way that's robust? So the data that's produced is robust using proper statistical methods and tools. And how do internal communication people develop the capabilities to know and trust that? Difficult. I think that's clearly a very new capability. Most of people who come into internal communication come from a background of either copywriting or event management, and they're not naturally numbers or statistics people, understandably. So that is a very difficult and new capability that I think internal comms people will have to embrace. Linking, and finally, beyond outcomes, impact. How do internal communication people demonstrate that the work that they do is having an impact on performance for the organization? Again, it's possible, but it will be more accessible when we can use an AI agent. Just another final stat to throw in, if I've got a minute or two, 40% of practitioners currently track sentiment and perception. So there's a huge opportunity there. I'm going to just finalize. This is my last slide. I wanted to just sum up and talk about what I think this means for internal communication practice. None of the things on this slide are new to anybody. I've been teaching all of these things for at least 20 years. The challenge is that these will now become, rather than higher level strategic capabilities, which many practitioners aspire to, and many students will study them and learn from them and use, these are now going to become essential capabilities. They're not going to be desired or high level, they're going to be essential. And I put in here an application of internal communication theory. Now that for me is absolutely fundamental, because it's the only way we can really ensure that internal communication practice is based on robust, proven, effective, and ethical practice. Now, an AI agent can learn all of that, but it's still, for the time being, will require judgment and reflection to make sure that it's being used in the right way. Clear comms objectives, of course, better measurement and evaluation, of course, but the big one, I think, is the one I've highlighted. The capabilities that we're really going to have to get to grips with in the coming year is going to be the data analysis. So more dialogue and listening on the right-hand side of practice, and better, deeper analysis and insight capabilities on the other side. That's it from me in the UK. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to follow up some of these points with you at some point. So thank you again for allowing me to share my thoughts on the future of AI and internal communication.
Thank you so much, Kevin. You brought in the importance of looking at academic research and how that informs practice when rubber hits the road. You also spoke about on-demand intelligence, and you brought in some very pertinent topics on advocacy, on activism, on the changes that we need to start seeing in our approaches to becoming more strategic planners and strategic advisors, the future capability that AI itself holds for us, and data security, transparency, openness. You also spoke about applying judgment, empathy, and creative thinking. I think there is always that human angle that steps in when we speak about AI to be able to do that. We do need that impetus and that push. And you also spoke about using AI agents for defining user behavior, and to also to cut through the noise and look at capabilities to move beyond the outputs and the matrices, to look at sentiment, perception, and feelings. And that was, again, something that touched a little bit of a chord, because we always think about all of these measurements and matrices, but when you bring in those angles of really looking at sentiment, it starts telling you how much more complex the measurement becomes, and AI can surely help us do that, and about it becoming essential and not desired as a skill. So thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. It was lovely to listen from you. Next, we move on to our speaker, Marissa Vega, who's a seasoned leader from Puerto Rico, president of Puerto Rico Public Relations Association. Marissa brings nearly 30 years of experience in public relations, specializing in corporate protocol, crisis communication, and media reputation. Please put your hands together and welcome Marissa. Marissa, we are looking forward to listening from you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some ideas that I believe can help move our field forward. Public relations, it's about building strong, positive relationship with our key audiences. It's a strategic role. Today, public relations is about dealing with complexity, building trust, and creating real, meaningful connections in a communication world that's changing faster than ever. With all these changes happening, I invite you to look ahead. Technology has completely changed how we connect, not just by adding new channels, but by changing what people expect and how they behave. Especially younger generation now expect transparency, quick responses, and authenticity. They don't just want to receive messages. They want to shape them, challenge them, and even create them. At the same time, the world is more unstable than ever. Misinformation spread faster than facts. A single social media post can affect brands' reputation around the world in just minutes. Today, reputations are built and sometimes rebuilt as quickly as a trending topic. So the big question is, how can public relations evolve to face these challenges while staying true to truth, ethics, transparency, and service to society? I will share 3 key strategies for First strategy, shift from control to adoption. In the past, public relations was for controlling the message. And for that, we need to be flexible. Edward Bernays said, one of the founders of public relations, used that the listening is the key to understanding people's needs. That idea is still true and even more important today. Listening helps us not just understand, but also adapt quickly to what people feel and think. Brands like Netflix, Amazon, or Airbnb adjust their messages based on what people say because from the beginning, they build flexibility into their strategy. This is something we understand because it's part of our daily routine, monitoring and making the necessary changes to achieve our goals. Quick listening leads to quick actions. Adapting means always keeping an eye on public sentiment, adjusting the tone depending on emotions, and being open to feedback, even if it's uncomfortable. Flexibility doesn't mean chaos. It means building smart strategies that can change when needed. In the future, communication will be about listening to adapt. Second strategy, use data with integrity. Today, we are surrounded by data. Data gives us powerful insights. It tells us what people care about, when they connect, and how they feel. In the future, public relations must make ethics part of every decision about data. We need to ask ourselves, are we using trust and reliable data? Are we really serving our audience's needs? Are we respecting people's privacy and consent? Now, with the arrival of the AI, things are even more complex. Ethics must be at the center of everything we do. Some big companies like Coca-Cola, Nike, and Google, among others, are already using AI tools to understand public sentiment. A survey by Gartner showed that 80% of PR professionals expect to use AI tools by 2026. Companies like Microsoft, IBM, and Google are already using AI to track public emotion in real time. To lead in this future, PR professionals must learn how AI works, choose their tools wisely, and always check the ethical standards are being followed. The best PR strategy will not just be data-driven, they will be people-centered. Because in the end, trust is the most valuable thing public relations can build. Third strategy, authentic narrative across multiple platforms. Today, communication happens everywhere. TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, news articles, podcasts, you name it. But here's the truth. We can copy and paste the same message around every platform. Each space has its own rules, culture, style, and audience expectation. Good communicators know how to stay consistent, but also flexible. They keep one clear voice, always based on authenticity, purpose, and relevance. Let's look at Patagonia, an American brand of outdoor clothing and equipment founded in the 1917, as an example. Whether it's a short Instagram post, a blog article, or a public statement, their environmental message always feels real and aligned with who they are. So remember, it's not about being everywhere. It's about being meaningful wherever you are. Authentic storytelling is not just a trend. It is how we build real human connections. People don't connect with brands that look perfect. They connect with brands that show values, vision, and even vulnerability. The future of public relations will belong to those who listen deeply, act ethically, adapt with courage, and communicate with true integrity. It's not about shooting louder. It's about connecting smarter. Public relations is more than a service for brands. It is a service for communities, for societies, and for humanity. To young professionals, this is your time to lead. You are creating a new communication world. Innovation won't come only from technology. It will come from reimagining our role as builder of trust, as advocates for truth, and as storyteller who unite differences and build futures. For all of us, being future-ready means staying deeply human. Empathy will always be our strongest communication tool. With AI and technology moving fast, our challenge is to balance innovation with responsibility. AI will not replace PR professionals because relationship, insight, and trust are impossible to replace. We have the critical knowledge to be strategic, the ability to listen, and the capacity to be empathic. Instead, AI can help us save time, focus on creativity, and build stronger connection. Let's imagine new possibilities. Let's commit to a future where strategy and empathy go hand in hand. Let's take risk and do it with ethics, vision, and heart. I would like to close with a quote from Pope Francis, spoken to young people at a player vigil in 2013. Be protagonists of change, not spectators. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Marissa. You spoke about building strong relationships with audiences. You spoke about the complexity of what we do as our roles as trust builders, of shaping and challenging the whole idea of how we create. You also brought in a very pertinent example of how misinformation and social media can really become an overnight reputational risk. And you also spoke about the importance of listening to understand. I also love the way you brought in the role of ethics and the importance of it while we use the AI tools, and authenticity, purpose, and relevance that you spoke of as well. Innovation comes from reimagining our world and being future ready by leading with empathy. And the last piece that you ended with, which is ethics, vision, and heart, I think that really encapsulates the storytelling narrative that we're all sort of leading to see AI lead the change with. So thank you so much once again for the insights, Marissa. With that, we move on to our sixth speaker from Malaysia, Jafri Amin Osman, APR FAPR, Managing Director of World Communications and President of the Institute of Public Relations, Malaysia. Jeffrey is a global communications leader and the founder of KLIP and AIFFA, with decades of experience in ESG communications, media relations, and public affairs. He has thoughtfully prepared a video presentation for today, which we're about to play, and he'll also be joining us live just after during the Q&A session. So Jafri, it's lovely to welcome you on stage. Over to the video.
Hello. Welcome to Global Alliance, Public Relation and Communication Education Month. Not just important, critical for all the students, academia, practitioners, executives, all of us to understand what's coming up in this new education sphere of public relations and communication. There are just two big points I would like to share with all of you today. Number one, life is a pitch. Number two, think global, act local. And since we're talking about strategy, we cannot go away other than talk about twinkle, twinkle, little. Yes, star. Why? Because life is a pitch. We continue to pitch. We continue to pitch to our bosses. We continue to pitch to our clients and customers. We continue to pitch to our colleagues. We continue to pitch to our family members, to our spouse, to our children. Life is definitely a pitch. more so in the future. It becomes interesting in the future because twinkle, twinkle, little star. Let's demystify the first S in star, which is stakeholders. We have to pitch to our stakeholder wherever they are and whatever we are doing. More so as a PR and a professional communication practitioner. We have to pitch to the CEO, we have to pitch to the head of department, we have to pitch to the board with regards to our strategy, concept, proposal, press release, speeches, and the list goes on. How do you pitch? Are you good at pitching? Or are we just good at copy and pasting from ChatGPT? To understand how to win the pitch, we go back to education, exposure, and experience. And one big glue to all this education, exposure, and experience is to continue educating ourselves and to do research and to do the biggest R, continue to read. Read magazines, read business magazine, read online journals, read books. Continue to have targets for how many books you read in a month, in the year. Because that puts us in a better state when we talk about global issue and understanding the local context. 2. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. If S is the stakeholder, T must be this crucial other magnet called trust. Trust is not easy. Trust is being built over time. Trust means we have to do incredible things now in 2025 and in the future. 24-hour media landscape is upon us to ensure that we contain, we maintain, and we accentuate and we expand the trust of the people in our organization, of the brands in our organization, trust of our organization, and trust of us as a person. How do you accentuate trust? Maybe through the right key messages, maybe through the right narratives, maybe through the right third-party endorser, maybe through the right influencer, maybe to the right key opinion leaders, and the list go on. Twinkle, twinkle, little star doesn't stop at stakeholder and trust. We must go on to the biggest, the champion of public relations and communication, especially with the students, the academia, and the executives in the corporate world. Dun, 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 dun. Put, put. AI, it will make your life easier and you can do things faster if you use AI. AI is a tool that we need to use. At the agency, for example, we use ChatGPT for many of the copies, but does ChatGPT win the job? It doesn't. It doesn't simply because you need to have the human factor to add into ChatGPT to win the job. For certain voiceover, we used to pay a lot of money for voiceovers, but simple voiceovers, when we use videos, YouTubes, or TikToks, yes, as long as it's legitimate and it's legal, go ahead, use voiceover AI. We have used Heygen, H-E-Y-G-E-N previously on voiceover. Try that. Of course, all of us, all over the world, whether you're working in an agency or at the corporate comm department, or you, students at your university, you may need to do media monitoring research. There are many AI apps and tools that you can use to assist you with media monitoring. One of it is DTERM, D-E-T-E-R-M, and we use it at the agency. Some apps, there's a trial period, you can use it for free, but some apps you do need to buy them as a tool. Of course, you have apps for voiceover and apps for visual, apps for storyboards, apps to assist you with many of your work. But remember, you may still need the education, exposure, experience, and some human elements to build trust, not just to use the AI language, and to also to engage with the stakeholder. You cannot keep using AI apps and tools to create a reputation for yourself in the future. It is about transforming the landscape, and you have to be future-ready PR and communication executives. We've already demystified stakeholder, We've demystified partly trust. And I've already spoken about AI, STA. We must come to the forgotten hero. The forgotten hero, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, must be research. Public relations and communication practitioners cannot run away from doing successful jobs without doing research. Some may ask, Jeff, how do brands last forever? How do you build brands that last eternally? How do you build brands that last 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Part of it must be research. If we are not good at doing research, we are not good at evolving ourselves or to have an evolution of our brands, whether it's a person, company, product, organization, then it may not last. You see good products in the world, they do research, and there are many types of research. We'll come back to research, but then you must do research. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this Global Alliance Education and Training Month, think Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star to understand the future of public relations and communication. Think about stakeholder, think of trust, think about using AI, when and where to use AI, and do not forget the always forgotten hero, research in our daily work at the agency, at the strategic com, in the industry. We must understand that we have to understand the bigger picture, we have to think global and act local. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaffrey. For a minute, I wanted to ask you if that was an AI agent, on your behalf. So there you go. After all of the speakers, I think Jaffrey brought it beautifully together because we spoke about stakeholders, we spoke about trust, we spoke about how AI can play an enabler, and of course, research and the importance of it. And as we come to a close, I just want to highlight some of the things that stood out for me of how life is eternally a pitch and we need to think global and act local as we start identifying who the stakeholders are and how the props are that we will be using for the pitches that we go into. I love the idea of looking at global issues with local context and what does that mean for brands and for businesses to sort of take over and run with. And also the importance of the evolution of organizations and teams and for the leveraging of, as you called it, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I think with those parameters coming together, that brings us to a close. Thank you, Jaffrey, again. And we now, after thanking all of our speakers for sharing all of their expertise and insights and experiences, move to our question and answer segment. So we have about 30 minutes for questions, and we already have questions that have come up in the chat. I'm going to start sharing them. Just give me a moment. And for those of you watching, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. We encourage all of you to actively participate. There are a lot of you who are still here. So don't miss this opportunity to engage directly with our speakers. The first question that I have is from and I'm going bottom up. What future-ready skills should be prioritized in PR and communication education to prepare practitioners for emerging challenges such as AI-driven messaging, misinformation, and digital ethics? This is open to my panel. Which one of you would like to step in? Please feel free to step in and we can have insights coming through. Yes, Jaffrey.
Yes.
Okay, we have, we're bringing all of our panelists onto the screen so everybody can have a visual of all of the speakers up. So for those of you that want to address this question, let me quickly once again read that out. What future-ready skills should be prioritized in PR and communication education to prepare practitioners for emerging challenges such as AI-driven messaging, misinformation, and digital ethics? Who would like to go first? Yes, Jaffrey, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Shreya. I think it's a very relevant question to today's webinar. And I think I would like to take everyone globally to not just twinkle, twinkle, little star, but from the first word itself, S, is one has to be strategic, not just at the corporate com, but at the universities as well. I sit at a few boards at the university, and I think there is a big, there's a real need for practitioners and industry players to assist universities, and vice versa for universities to open up to the industries to speak better, because to prepare the generation who are joining us at the corporate comm, strategic comm agencies, and all of us out here, you have to be strategic. Now, talking about being strategic, some of the skills that I would like the new graduates or people who are joining and to be future ready is to be strategic, quick, unique, agile, resourceful, and engaging. I repeat, I would love for executives who are joining the market from 2025 onwards to be strategic, quick, unique, most importantly, agile, resourceful, and engaging. I think a few speakers have said that you can be a good copywriter, but if you don't understand video and you don't understand TikTok, you want to do copies, it's going to be very difficult in the future. So agility will be crucial. Just before I leave the platform, about being strategic, quick, unique, agile, resourceful, and engaging, I would like to introduce you to my book, Square, and I would love to give away a free Square book for those people who can email me, the first person who emails me at jaffrey@world.com.my. I don't know whether you can screen capture that. jaffrey@world.com.my, and just email me your information and tell me the answer to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. What does STAR stand for? STAR. Back to you, Shreya.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Would anybody else like to comment on what you think we should be looking at as educational supplementary programming? Yes, Dr. Kevin, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. And I think it's a great question. I actually think, what we've heard today is that AI agents are going to create content for you. So, teaching future people into this industry how to create content is, while it's useful, actually, it's better to teach them how to use an AI agent to create content. And they will be able to do that pretty quickly. So the capabilities that I think that you really do need are the ability to understand what good, ethical communication theory is. And that's based on robust academic research, good industry reports, such as those we've heard about today, and it's understanding the knowledge about what good is, and also good and ethical. And because, you can't have good without the ethical. And the capabilities that really practitioners are going to need, in the next few years are the ones I mentioned, I think, and others too. Data analysis, data interpretation, how to use advanced statistical analysis knowledge. You don't have to be, an advanced statistician, but you need to know how to use different tools. What is a correlation? What's multiple regression? How does that matter? What are the insights that come from using correlation analysis, bivariate analysis, multiple regression analysis? Now, this may sound, way off scale, but in fact, learning those capabilities is going to enable you to generate insights that form creative approaches. And what's creativity? For me, it's bringing together things from different perspectives that bring an innovative approach to communication that's going to work. And it's going to work because it resonates with your stakeholder groups. And that requires knowledge rather than the ability to write copy, create video, and other tactical things like that, because those will all be done for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kevin. Would anybody else want to lean into the question on it? Yes, Fiona, please go ahead.
Fabulous question. I actually think it's about critical thinking and thinking differently, because a lot of the things we're actually talking about are kind of tactics, but you have to use the top 10% and know how to use that, because by doing that, that will allow you to develop strategies, actually figure out where you need to be. So for me, I think the most important thing is critical thinking.
Great.
Yes.
Marissa, would you like to comment?
I'm the same line, the same idea, because knowledge is everything. You need to read, They need to know what's happening around the world. And the most important is the develop strategic thinking. You can have all the tools that you have, but if you can use the best way, is nothing. So the knowledge is the most important thing in public relation and communication field. But many people think that tools is the most important thing. This is only a tool. You need to develop the strategic thinking, to compare, to know about everything. Like I said, my student, you need to know everything from right to left. Because if you can make, if you make a strategy, you need to know how the other people think. You can be in one channel. So I think, like they say, the thinking is the most important thing to us, to know about all.
Yeah. Wayne, would you like to weigh in with the whole angle of education and what we need to look at and focus on?
I actually have a question. So I wrote my first paper on AI and communications in 2017, and this question's been in my mind ever since then, and it still is today. And it's interesting to see there's so many educators on the call. I'd love to know the perspective. What is the pathway for an early career communicator in a Gen AI enabled world where Gen AI is looking at a lot of the content creation and things like that? What is the pathway for a more junior communicator?
I mean, I'm happy to kind of, that's a great question, Wayne. And I have to say, it's one I've been pondering on for the 25 years I've been teaching too. I think the answer from my point of view is to become more like a strategic consultant in the consulting world. You know, because the role is going to become a strategic planner and advisor and coach and counsel to senior leaders. Now, those capabilities are very, very different from the traditional communication skills that are taught on a lot of courses still at the moment. So it's how do you become a trusted advisor? What's the pathway to doing that? And that's about relationship management, being perceived as a credible advisor to a senior leader. You know, so it requires some business knowledge, I'm afraid, because, you know, senior leader is not going to take you seriously as an advisor if you don't have some credentials about the business world. So that's where I think it's going. I hope that sort of half answers it anyway.
No, thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Wayne. And moving to Bonnie. Bonnie, insights on what do you feel would be an educator's perspective that needs to be considered when we start building the curriculum for Future Ready? Yeah, there you go.
So I have a book called, I mean, this is just like my favorite book right now. It's called Irreplaceable by Pascal Bornet. And he talks about what skill sets we need to be irreplaceable in an AI world. And it's pretty futuristic, but he comes to the humanics, which are the things that only humans can do. And it's the critical thinking, the problem solving, the creativity. And I would suggest everyone read this book. I think it's very
Lovely.
valuable.
Lovely. We have a question from Wency Valentine who asks, hello, I would like to ask about the challenges that communication managers may face in maintaining trust and transparency when AI tools are used to automate internal communication within organizations. And Kevin, you've identified to answer the question. So please go ahead and we can have the others weigh in. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to hog the platform, but I think it's a good question. In fact, the research shows that only 1 in 3 organizations, 1 in 3 organizations at the moment have not made any decisions about AI transparency to employees. So this is a question that 33% or so of organizations haven't come to a conclusion about either. So I think what that tells us is that people are still trying to grapple with the question and find a way through it. I'll give you my personal view, which is that I don't think employees are that worried about knowing whether communication that's coming to them has been AI generated or not. I think what they're more worried about is it relevant to them? Does it ring true? Does it show empathy for their position? And how far are they being given a say in what goes on as part of the communication? They place more value on that than knowing whether it's come from an AI agent. And I would say, actually, what is the difference between a piece of communication that's been sent out by a chief executive, but has been written by an internal communication person, than a piece of communication that's being sent out by a chief executive that's been written by an AI agent? In both cases, the employee may not necessarily know that it's not the actual CEO who's written it. It's been written either by an agent or by an internal communication practitioner. And at the moment, most organizations would not say this briefing has been sent to you by a chief executive, but been written by an internal communication manager. So I go back to my point. It's about resonance. It's about segmentation, relevance, empathy, and how far are people given a say in the whole communication process.
Great. Thank you. Would anybody else like to weigh in on this question? Maintaining trust and transparency with AI tools using automation for internal communication purposes within organizations. Anybody else wanting to weigh in, panel?
I might make a couple of comments if I could. There was actually a survey that was done here in Australia not that long ago, which found that a very high percentage of communicators were actually using Gen AI outputs without vetting them. And that, to me, is a significant risk. It raises the risks of incorrect information, of all sorts of issues. But it also robs you of the opportunity to add your humanity to it. And we've talked about humanity a bit. To your humanity, your context, your empathy, or your creative knowledge and all of that, that's what's going to make the responses that come out of AI great, is actually your humanity. So I think that's important. The other thing I did want to add, just as a more general comment, I noticed there are a couple of questions in there about what do comms leaders do and what do comms managers need to do. I mentioned earlier that there's a handout that's going out, and there's some principles in those handout, and one of them is that Gen AI is a team sport. And what I mean by that is that the best way to learn Gen AI is not to sit there in a silo on your own and learn it. It's to learn it as part of your team, to as a team, identify what the right use cases are to explore, and go through the whole process as a team. And what that means is that the manager becomes incredibly important to the whole process. The trouble we've got, of course, is going back to what I was saying before, that managers are suffering huge amounts of burnout. So there needs to be something that happens in all of this to actually free up managers so they can play a much bigger role in this.
Absolutely. And anybody else wanting to take that? I think it opens up an interesting angle. Yes, Bonnie?
I did just want to add, as Kevin was talking about us becoming strategic planners and advisors, that IEBC has a tool, and I put the link in an answered question, but it has a tool for a career assessment to see what you need to do from going from foundational to a business leader, and strategic advisor is along that path. And when you take that assessment, it gives you where your gaps are. If you want to become a strategic advisor, it shows you where the gaps are in that business, finance, etc., so that you can make some decisions on where you need training to do that. And that's just a free tool on their website. The link's in there. I thought I'd share that.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, any more takers? I think I'll move to the next question. This is from Deva Ayu Chintya Anandita. Good evening. I have a question. How can corporate communication leaders ensure that the use of AI enhances employee engagement rather than creating feelings of surveillance, exclusion, or depersonalization? A very pertinent question. Who'd like to go first? Wayne, Maria, Marissa. Wayne, would you like to go first?
I think there's and sorry if I'm sort of talking too much, but I think particularly on the surveillance one, there's a really important sort of thing to me in this, which is don't do it. Don't sort of do it and then try and justify it, because you're not going to get away with it. The only way you'll get trust is to earn it, and so make sure that you're doing, as an organisation, as leaders, you're doing the right things by people, and don't play games.
Yeah. Anybody else wanting to add?
To Wayne's point, if it's not the way you would do business today before AI, if it's not part of your value system, don't use AI to do it. And think critically, does AI cross the line because of its capabilities? That's really important, to think critically about how AI actually is working and how it crosses the line when you might not think it does.
Absolutely. Yes. So can I move to the next question? Great. The next one comes to us from Garciela Tandiongen. I hope I got the name right. I would like to ask, in a 2030 workplace where AI supports real-time collaboration, predictive risk management, and human AI interaction, what specific skills and capabilities must PR and communication professionals develop to effectively manage internal communication and maintain employee trust and engagement?
Well, I think transparency. This is the most important, because if you don't tell the thing that the real things that you did or you will do, sorry, the airplane is on my the transparency, the truth, it's the personal skills is the more important. You need to be transparent. That's the word that I can say is the whole thing, and the other.
Anybody wanting to add to that? Yes, Kevin.
Thank you. So I would just add, this really is a question more about internal communication and employee engagement generally, but of course in an AI context. So if it's okay, I'd like to answer it by talking about internal communication and employee engagement generally first. And so the first thing really, if you want your employees to be engaged through internal communication, don't spin. So there was some research, 2-3 years ago, again, UK oriented, that said that employees, 38% of employees, thought the communication in their organisation was too positive. So this, I believe, comes from a desire from internal communication people to always, put a good slant on what's happening inside an organisation, and a natural reluctance to talk about things that may be difficult to talk about. That's the first thing. So don't be over positive. And the second thing is, ensure the communication that you provide is relevant and meaningful, jargon-free, timely, and includes some empathy as well. So however you provide it. And the third thing for employee engagement, and a big factor, is listening, but not just listening and responding. Just listening to employees is not enough, because you have to show that you are listening actively and you follow through with a response. So there are many factors about engagement in internal comms, but those are three I pick out. So the next question is, how do you use AI agents to fulfill all of those three things? So that's the real process. It's more about the principles, and then making sure the tools, whatever they may be, are fulfilling those principles.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else wanting to lean in on specific skills? Yes, Jaffrey.
Just a quick one. I think prior to 2020, post-pandemic, up to 2030, a keyword that Kevin keeps repeating and many of us have been repeating, including Marissa, and many of us, is this word empathy. Now, with AI, we may not be able to, we may get the content, but we may not win the pitch. And when we want to win the pitch, whether it's to the doctors that we see when we are ill, up to the bosses, our children, it must be about empathy. And more so today, from 2025 onwards. Thanks, Shreya.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. Thank you. Anybody else wanting to weigh in? Because that is something that the human brings in, right? The human-centric approach can be brought in by the human alone. Yes, Fiona. You're on mute, Fiona.
Sorry about that. I think one of the things we need to remember is that actually our profession's under threat. Because if we take a step back, everybody is a communications professional. So what are the skills that we need to actually be relevant now and in 2030? And I would suggest that is to ensure that we keep continuing to have the skills outside of communications so we sit at the C-suite. Now, if we look around the world, different places, that happens. But it is still at a situation where we're at a tactical level. So communications always gets blamed for everything, right? Even if it didn't do it. So my suggestion is we need to know, and I always tell people who I work with or who I'm managing, we need to know the business of the business first. Because in knowing that, that allows us to do our job because we are talking the same language as those as a senior leadership team. So that's my thought. Know the business of the business.
Wonderful. Anybody else wanting to weigh in? Okay. I'm going to move to the next question, and it's a very interesting question. And I think I'm going to lean in to have different perspectives on this from our speakers. This comes from Baba, and it's actually spelled and written in Spanish, so I'm not going to be able to pronounce the full name. I'm sorry about that, but hello, I'm studying sociology in university, and it's not a secret that despite being really changing through the human history, sociology is a fundamental science. So I'm really interested in practical use of my knowledge, and PR is a really popular field for it. Can you tell how exactly can sociologists be useful to PR? Moreover, you have to tell about the use of AI for social predicting a lot. Does it mean that sociologists should be afraid of being replaced by AI? Okay, so I'm going to attempt to start off with this, right? Firstly, the idea that AI is going to replace people is not right. AI is going to replace people who do not understand and have the ability to work with AI. So that's fundamentally what AI is speaking about. It's people who don't know how to use AI that will be replaced by artificial intelligence. And talking about sociology, I think one of the biggest and most interesting fields that AI is going to start hiring in is going to be sociology, anthropology, and various other social sciences, because psychology is also predicted to be one of the biggest areas that is going to be made as an investment by artificial intelligence, because currently, like we spoke about already, there's a lot of focus on the tools, but not enough on the whole element of judgment, empathy, human centric intelligence, which can only come from a lot of gaps in data that are missing. And let's be honest, the data that's available to AI today is biased, is not a representative set of the world. There are a lot of voices left out of the collective data around the world that AI is working with, which tells us about why there are more, African Americans that are charged with, when AI is put on the seat of judgment, are charged with crimes versus those people who are white-skinned or who are not Asian. So there's a lot of information and data to go that says that there are gaps that need to be addressed in the system. And some of the biggest biases currently that we're dealing with AI elimination of faces, voices, etc., comes from the lack of that. So I think the importance and the relevance of sociology is not at all going to be undermined. I think the idea is for all of us to be thinking intelligently about the application of sociology in the form and manner that it needs to be brought into the AI world. So with that, I'm asking my panel to step in and share their insights too.
I think if I could, there's a general rule of thumb here that applies not just to areas like sociology, but also to comms. And that is, there's a glass half empty and a glass half full way of looking at this. The glass half empty way is, it's going to take my job and I'm going to be replaced by it. And if you think that way, there's a good chance that'll happen. The glass half full way of looking at it is to actually say, this is the greatest opportunity I've ever had to really rethink what I do, the way I do it, the sorts of outcomes I deliver, the value I deliver. This is such an enormous opportunity. And this applies, as I say, to us, to sociologists, to all sorts of other roles. It's this just one time certainly in my career, it's just one time where I've got an opportunity now to look at it and so I can completely reinvent not just the way I do things, but what I'm actually doing.
Why? Yeah, ask why. I guess, Bonnie, go ahead.
I would also say, look at it from a change management perspective. I think more and more comms professionals are being asked to lead change, and change is part of our life, and it's working at the speed of light. And sociology is a very important piece of that, of looking at bringing people along the process and understanding them, and where their needs are. And as we develop AI and we look at how we reshape, sociology will be important for that as well.
Great. Anybody else leaning in? Okay, so yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Bonnie if I could ask you a question. I'm sort of not afraid of asking contentious questions occasionally, and this is one of them. Do you think that existing change models are going to be sustainable?
No.
So right.
No.
So it's not that contentious. It's just pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. I think even organizations like ProSci that have the ADCAR model are looking at how they're applying that. That's when we did our responsible AI implementation compass. We looked at 5 different models and brought them into it, because we just don't think that it's not the same as the change models that you would use to put in an ERP system are not going to be the same as what we're using to implement and evolve from an AI perspective.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. We have a couple more questions. Also, I think there is somebody who's looking for a link to the handouts. So, Giselle, if you can just help them with it. The next question comes from Cecilia Pretorius, who asks, aren't we as PR practitioners AI agents? And how do we drive the agenda from traditional PR to the transformation taking place currently? What are the practicalities? In other words, do you write your own copy and then run it through AI? Or do you first prompt? So what is the process? Any insights into this one?
I will.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go, Fiona.
I was going to start with what Jeffrey said before, that life is a pitch. So I think if we go back, you actually need to start with the strategy, because the minute you're starting to think about the tools and the things that'll get you there, where are you going? So to me, life is a pitch. It's actually a journey. And for us as PR professionals, unless we know where we're going, how are we going to get there? Because the rest of it is just the tools to actually do the outputs. Then we get to the outcomes, but what we're after is actually impact.
True impact. So anybody else want to quickly weigh in on that, or I can move to the next one?
I was just going to make a couple of comments if I could.
Yes.
There does tend to be a little bit of confusion about AI agents. So as Bonnie talked about before, there is agentic AI, which is these autonomous agents that can make decisions. But the one thing that doesn't get a lot of coverage is these things that are called custom GPTs or GEMs in Gemini. And what they are these absolutely fantastic tools where you can really simply go in and create your own little program using natural language. It's really easy. And you can do things like you could create a little tool. You can go in and say, I want to create a change plan. And it'll come back and it'll ask me 5 questions about the plan that I want, and then it'll give me the plan. And these things are amazing, and they're really easy to set up if you've got, ChatGPT, or I think even Copilot's got them now. So give them a try. I think is a really great start.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes from Fabriani Rossa T. Hi, good evening. In the race to adopt AI-powered communication tools that promise efficiency and speed, organizations risk prioritizing automation over meaning. But in a world of mass-produced content, will audiences begin to crave depth, authenticity, and human nuance even more? As communicators, how can we balance the scale of AI with the irreplaceable value of thoughtful, emotionally resonant messaging that builds trust and connection over time? Yes. I think that question self-answers in some ways. If you felt at moments of time when I was reading depth, authenticity, human nuance, it sort of tucking a heartstring, it means that that's never going to go out of style, because I saw the smiles on the faces of my speakers, and I'm sure it resonates with the others too. I think it's never going to be replaced. I don't think thoughtful, emotionally relevant, resonant messaging can ever be replaced by mass-produced content, because there's something in the human that artificial intelligence can never override. And that's why even in Wayne's presentation, 30 years in 2030, I think the image that you had was of 2 people sitting in front of each other, talking to each other. There was no screen interface. So I think you can't take the magic of human connection away with scale and artificial intelligence. I think there's room for both to coexist in equal measure, but panel would love to hear your thoughts. Yes, Marissa, you're on mute. If I can just ask, yes.
Okay. I think AI could be our partner in this. We can, give them the ideas and redefine the structure and set what we can do, what we need to do. And it's not that the tool tell us what we need to do, what we need, and we can use to be more easy, but more empathy. But the important thing is we can use to edit, adapt, validate, but it's our thinking. It's not the information that they give us. We can take this information and put in a paper or that or give a value that this is correct. We need to redefine, to clarify, to improve, and to validate all the information and take responsibility for this information that we work with the AI.
Okay. Anybody else from the panel leaning in to respond?
I think if I could, a comment about,
Yes.
communications that connects with people. One of the things that has really inspired me, and I'm actually trying to do one myself at the moment, is a guy, and I think his name from memory was Joe Curtis. He's a graphic designer, And what he's doing is he's using AI images to create kind of visual storytelling, to do visual storytelling. So he's be able to create these images, have a little flip book that he puts up on LinkedIn to tell these really powerful stories. He created one called, it was about the sloppening. And what the sloppening is, that we're all drowning in hopeless content, which is something we've been talking about. And we're drowning in this slop. And the way that his little visual storytelling piece conveys the message is fantastic. As I say, I'm trying one myself, but so it brings in new opportunities to actually connect with people, new ways to communicate, which really excites me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, there is a request for a full recording of today's session, so I'm sure that'll come out to you. Panel, any closing comments from any of you? We've had a very engaging Q&A session as well, and we have 3 minutes to go, and I'm conscious of time. But what a phenomenally engaging conversation. Each one of your presentations was so insightful, exciting to hear that while we're so diverse in our application and usage of AI, I think we're all very deeply connected by our need for it to be empathetic and real and human and as authentic as we can get it to be. And I see the collective commitment that we're all making as PR practitioners and professionals to ensure that we play a very important role in how AI is informed and the future that it's creating, both together and as individuals in each of our capacities. We've had a very diverse set of conversation starting with calm, ending with star, and everything in between. So it's been truly exciting and interesting to hear from each one of you and what you had to say. And I have all my notes, which I'm thinking of bringing out as a little post-note, collective of thoughts that we heard from all of you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jaffrey. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Wayne. And thank you so much to the team that brought us all together. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it back to Giselle, and it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Rhea, for being an exceptional moderator and for leading today's CAPOF webinar with such energy and clarity. A heartfelt thanks as well to all our amazing speakers. Your powerful insights and inspiring strategies have truly set the tone for the future. And as we close the GAETDM 2025 journey, we carry forward the collective wisdom of both academia and industry. So we are ready to spark new possibilities, keep learning, and drive fearless change. So thank you once again for being part of this exciting month of growth, connection, and inspiration. Let's keep reimagining and reshaping the future of our profession together. And I warmly invite you to visit the Global Alliance website to access the webinar recording. And you can download today's presentation materials as well and explore the knowledge resources shared by our contributors. And please continue to support the free webinars of the Global Alliance and stay connected with our global community. We look forward to seeing you again next year for GAETDM 2026, celebrated every April. So stay safe, stay inspired, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.